Well, if the state's top fiscal watchdog is concerned with them, that means you probably should be too. Tonight, we shine a spotlight on the shadowy world of public authorities, a world that you fund but know very little about. Greg Floyd explains.
Public authorities, they are often anything but public.
There's authorities all over the place, and you know, I think folks just don't know where all that money is going very often.
New York State Comptroller Tom DiNapoli has long called them a shadow government. You may have never heard of them, but they control millions of dollars for public projects and publicly subsidized private projects all across the state of New York.
Is there a distinct lack of accountability with many of these authorities?
Yeah, I mean, look, Greg, as you and I have talked about, I mean, they've often been set up for that purpose, right? To be opaque and to not be transparent, to be outside the normal state rules and ways of doing business.
At last check, there were 589 public authorities, 47 of them state authorities, and 542 local. Most deal with some form of economic development. Most have staff paid for by you, the taxpayer, and fund their projects with government money and through borrowing. Blair Horner is with the New York Public Interest Research Group.
There's a lot of public authorities, and we don't need this many. There's no, I think there's many of these we've looked at in the past. Really, they don't really do anything.
In Albany County alone, there are at least 15 separate public authorities, industrial development authorities, IDAs, and local development corporations, LDCs. The city of Cohoes actually has one of each, and Assemblymember John McDonald, the former mayor, has chaired them both.
Does Albany County really need all those public authorities?
Do we need all of them? No.
There's the Albany County IDA, not to be confused with the Albany City IDA. There's the County Business Development Corporation, the County Capital Resource Corporation, the City Capital Resource Corporation. There's Capitalize Albany, and the list goes on and on. Ever hear of the Albany CSO Pool Communities Corporation?
I think what we need to do is to have a very thoughtful discussion about what are IDAs doing, what are LDCs doing, is there a way we can better integrate those so that way we really can diminish the number of entities.
All authorities are required to submit yearly reports on their finances. In the past, some Albany city authorities have been delinquent with those reports. The Albany mayor, Kathy Sheehan, has promised they do better.
We have a number of authorities that operate within the city of Albany, and it's important that we file and abide by the deadlines that exist for those authorities.
Overseeing all this is the very small New York State Authorities Budget Office. It has a budget for just 12 employees, 12 people to keep track of those 589 authorities. And the ABO has just lost its director. He's moved on to the governor's office and has still not been replaced.
The point of the authority's budget office is to keep an eye on all these entities, to make sure they're reporting what they're supposed to be reporting, and ensuring that they follow best practice and the law. But when you underfund the watchdog, you defang the watchdog.
Which can keep those public authorities operating in the dark.
So unless the press asks questions, does anybody really know what's going on in some of these authorities?
You also have an We'd like to tell you more about what the Oversight Agency has to say about all this, but the authority's budget office still has no director and doesn't want anyone else to do interviews. I can tell you that in her new budget plan, Governor Kathy Hochul has called for an additional 8 employees for the ABO. That would mean 20 people overseeing 589 authorities.
Well, this time of year, we have been tracking the dangers of winter, such as cold weather and dangerous driving conditions. But the risk of a house fire is just as dangerous. Good evening, everyone. I'm Amanda Hall. Late last night, the Syracuse Fire Department responded to a house fire on Syracuse's south side. Though the house was empty, the conditions were dangerous. Firefighters struggled to get to the fire because of the snow, and one was injured and taken to the hospital. It took them 30 minutes to put the fire out until they got another call. The department saying they responded to another fire on the other side of town on Harding Street, right after they were finished at the first fire. This one was put out in just 10 minutes. Tonight we are asking why fires are so much more common this month than others. Our Samantha Carlson has perspective from a firefighter tonight.
According to the Red Cross, December and January are the peak months for house fires. Today I checked in with the past fire chief of the Cicero Fire Department, and he tells me that there is a direct correlation between those winter activities and house fires.
During the holidays, many celebrate by putting up decorations. While pretty, they're also dangerous. Many decorations require electricity, which Barrett says leads to increased house fires.
So you'll have extension cords and other decorations that'll be electrified that you wouldn't have other times of the year, so those present a hazard.
Barrett says there are specific cords you should be using to minimize the risk when plugging decorations in.
You always want to use electrical cords that have grounding equipment on them, so those are traditionally the 3-prong. This is a 2-prong, and it doesn't have the ground. What you want to use is the 3-prong, much, much safer.
Other culprits include candles, heated blankets, more cooking, and increased use of fireplaces, especially when people are putting items in them that don't belong. For example, throwing wrapping paper in the fireplace can decrease the ability for burning materials and gases to flow up the chimney.
Two things will happen. That can ignite and cause a fire, or it can plug up the opening, back up gases, and cause carbon monoxide poisoning inside of a structure.
Red Cross Regional Communications Manager Dan Hartman says that one of the best things you can do proactively is come up with a family escape plan, since you normally only have 2 minutes or less to escape a house fire.
Pick a meeting spot outside, a mailbox or a tree or something, so that everyone can go there, so that you know that everyone's accounted for.
And what can we do to prevent house fires? The past chief recommends servicing both chimneys and furnaces, and he says that once a year is ideal.
Joining us this morning is Lieutenant Malinowski. Good morning.
Good morning. Happy to be here as always.
Thank you for joining us. It has been a very snowy end to this week, and you wanted to remind the public when it comes to car accidents, when to call the police and when not to.
Yeah, so there's a lot of confusion on this one, and when it comes to motor vehicle collisions, I kind of want to set the record straight. So obviously, when you get in a car accident, the first thing most people think is that you have to call the police right away, and if we're super busy or delayed, that you're going to have to wait hours to wait for a police officer to respond. But the way the law reads, and what is totally acceptable, is that if the damage is under $1,000 and no one's injured, you can just exchange the information with the driver, your driver's license, your registration, and your insurance card, and you two can work that the particulars of that accident out together and with your insurance company. You don't have to wait for hours by the side of the road. That's something you can handle yourself. If the damage is over $1,000, there's injuries, it's a hit and run, things like that, then you can go ahead and call the police. But I'd like to save people a little bit of time and just let them know about that. Another thing, though, too, is if you find yourself on the highway in a motor vehicle collision and you're not in a safe spot, you don't have to preserve the scene and be unsafe and sit there. It's always acceptable to move the cars off to the side of the road or get off at an exit, call the police, and let them know where you are. But you should not be sitting in the middle of a highway when you're in a motor vehicle collision. If you can get those vehicles off to a safe spot, that's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, these vehicles can be replaced, but your life cannot.
Thank you for that this morning. And another reminder, you have been saying this throughout the entire winter season, to make sure that you clean off your front window. And the state police is also reminding people this morning as well. They tweeted out, because of someone not clearing off that window, the driver actually knocked into the back of a state police squad car.
Yes, I know it's cold. We're in a rush, and no one really wants to be stuck out there cleaning off their car, but really can't say how important this is, because even if you clear out that little tunnel for you to see, if you leave the snow on top of your car, it just creates a huge kind of windstorm behind you, so people can't see, and the snow's blowing all over their cars. And then you may potentially have someone else get into an accident. So that's why we really try to stress that if possible. Just take a few extra minutes to try to clean that off if you can.
And now it's time for your tip of the week, Lieutenant.
Okay, so I really want to stick on the theme of preventing people to get scammed. This is another one. So say if you got this email, it looks like it's from a bank, super realistic. The thing on this one, people might be quick to think that their account's been compromised and now they're going to play on your emotions. So once you click this link and then you log into your bank account, they have your information. So it's super important. And this is what I would always do. If a bank contacts me via email, I would go to their website and log in. I would never click through a link, and I'd suggest people to do the same. If you're not sure, call the bank and get the information. But once you give that login information, it's too late. So anytime with email, these text messages, you should not be clicking links or sending codes. It's always best to contact the company directly. or go to their website. And that's really, you can try to be prevent yourself from being the victim of a crime that way.
If someone has learned that they've been scammed, or someone has called them trying to scam them, or they receive emails like this, how do they go about reporting them?
Well, I have no problem doing this, even though it might create a little bit more work. I would rather see people reach out through our social media pages if they follow us on the Syracuse Police Department. Send us a message, give me a screenshot, or give us a little synopsis of what's taking place. So, hey, I think I'm getting scammed. They sent me this picture. They want me to click this link. I'd rather you send that over to us, and we can have our team here review it and then give you a suggestion like you should probably contact your bank. Plus, we want to know about these scams. Not necessarily that you need to call 911 and get an officer there, because that might be a little excessive. But if you see trends going around, get that information to us, and then we can distribute it to everyone else on our Facebook page and social media. So really reaching out to us through Messenger or a comment on Facebook would be hugely beneficial.
Lieutenant Malinowski on the case. He is not fond of scammers, as you can see.
No. And scammers. I'll take them all on. I don't care.
Okay. We'll see.
My way.
If you want to ask Lieutenant Malinowski a question, feel free to email me at mejohnson@sbgtv.com. Lieutenant Malinowski will answer your questions every Sunday, a weekend today in Central New York.